Thank you for joining us for this class today. I'm Nurse Jay from the United States, but I come to Egg Bay often. Today we're going to talk about patient safety, something that the hospital feels is very important for our patients. This is a shot of the hospital, and it encompasses all the buildings that we care for our patients. The definition of patient safety is as follows. It is the absence of preventable harm to a patient during the delivery and process of healthcare. What that simply means is, what can we do to make sure we keep our patients safe while they're in the hospital with us? Why is this important? These are our parents, our family, our brothers, our sisters, and our children that come receive care in this hospital. We want to take the best and safest care of our most precious people while they're here. There is a story that we would like to watch, and it is about a little girl named Emily.
My daughter, Emily Christine Jerry, was born February 24th of 2004. She was playing in the backyard with her brother and sister, Nate and Catherine. And I noticed that every so often, Emily would stop and grab her side and wince. After witnessing this occur 3 or 4 times during the course of the afternoon, neither one of us as parents really thought much of it, but we knew that we needed to take her in to have her checked out. We took Emily to a leading pediatric facility in Cleveland, Ohio, and they had decided to run Emily through the MRI scanner. And there was a grapefruit-sized mass in Emily's abdomen. They prepared us to expect the worst. They set our expectations, expect that your little girl is going to lose a significant amount of weight during the course of treatment. She's going to lose her beautiful blonde ringlets. She'd be vomiting, most likely, and things of that nature. She didn't start losing those beautiful blonde ringlets of hair until January of 2006. But I knew in the back of my mind that quite possibly the tumor wasn't responding to that course of treatment. So the decision was made to run Emily through the MRI scanner again. Emily's tumor had completely disappeared. There wasn't even any residual scar tissue remaining in her abdomen that they had anticipated. A miracle had occurred. And those are the caregiver's words, not mine. At this point, they recommended one final 3-day round of chemotherapy, just to make sure that there wasn't any residual cancer cells remaining. I arrived about 10 or 15 minutes after they had started Emily's IV that day. And when I walked into Emily's treatment room, Emily was unconscious. I was thinking to myself, how could this have happened? I mean, she was just fine. What was found to have happened was the clinical pharmacy that day ran out of standard bags of saline with 0.9% sodium chloride. And so this young pharmacy technician decided to take an empty compounding bag, and she saw 3 vials of what's called hypertonic saline, which is 23.4% in concentration. She filled this empty compounding bag with those 3 vials of hypertonic saline and used that as the base solution for Emily's chemotherapy that day. She thought she was doing the right thing. That Wednesday was when My wife and I had to make the most difficult decision of our lives, which was, after multiple EEGs showed little to no brain activity, the decision was made to take Emily off of life support. That day is still a blur to me emotionally. I was packing some of Emily's things from her treatment room into the back of our SUV, which happened to be parked on the top floor of the parking garage at the facility that day. And I saw the car seat in the back of that SUV, and I was thinking, maybe I should just take a flying leap off this parking garage and go and join my little girl. I'd never had those kind of thoughts or feelings before in my life. And it was almost at that moment that I decided to embark on this career. I don't want to say that it was chosen, that I chose it. I believe it was chosen for me. And worked so passionately on through my advocacy efforts to try to find or be an active part of the solution to preventable medical errors. And so in striving to be part of the solution, I've been working very hard through the programming of the Emily Jerry Foundation. I believe that we can get to 0 deaths in the United States from preventable medical errors, because they're just that, preventable.
When we think about this, how could that have been prevented to Emily? What could we have done to make sure that that little girl lived to see her 5th birthday? Her error was a medication error. The pharmacy tech had the best intentions. They wanted to do the right thing to make sure that that little girl got her last dose of medicine. But the thing that they should have done is they should have said to the pharmacist, I don't have what I need to make sure that this is correct. In taking matters into their own hands, they ended up killing this little girl. Whose job is it to create a safe environment at EQUA-EGBE? It is the doctors, the students, the auditors, security guards, the DOA, Mr. Hans Manono, the attendants, the laboratory techs and scientists, the dental hygienists, the nurses, the HIM technicians, the dentists, and the HODs. There is a type of injury that is very important to understand. It is called a sentinel event. It is a patient safety event that is not primarily related to the natural course of the patient's illness or their underlying condition. It reaches the patient and results in one of the following: death to the patient, permanent injury to the patient, or severe temporary harm. These are types of sentinel events: falls, unintended retention of a foreign body, wrong site surgery, suicide, delays in treatments, medication errors, and perinatal death and/or injury. If a patient comes into the hospital to have surgery on their arm, but they slip on some water on the ground and hit their head, does the injury to their head have anything to do with the injury to their arm? No. That is a sentinel event. It is an injury that happens that has nothing to do with why they came to the hospital in the first place. When we talk about medical error and preventable harm, think of this. The average number of people that fly on a jumbo jet into Abuja is 275 people. That is the number of lives lost daily to medical errors. In America, we had a terrible hurricane, and it rained and flooded. It flooded a city named New Orleans. 1,836 people died because of that storm. That is the number of lives lost weekly to medical error. 11 people die every hour as a result of an error. But this is the most staggering thing. 5,500 preventable injuries happen daily. Those are sentinel events. 5,500 patients are injured, which has nothing to do with why they are in the hospital. How can we prevent the following? If you see an unsteady patient walking into the hospital and they're about to trip and fall on their face, what could you do? You come alongside them and you help them where they need to go. If you notice water on the floor that somebody could slip on, mop up the water or find somebody to do that. If there is a wire going across the floor or sidewalk that somebody could trip on, help the person over and secure the wire. If a patient has been given a medicine that will make them very drowsy, what do you need to do to the side rails of the bed? In nursing school, we learn you put the side rails up so that the patient cannot roll out of the bed. When we talk about unintended retention of a foreign body, prior to surgery, there is all kinds of gauze and sponges that the surgeon will use in surgery. Prior to surgery, they will count the number of sponges that they have on the counter. You need to count after to make sure that you have the same number of sponges, because if you have one less, where could that sponge be? In the body of the patient, and it needs to come out. Wrong site surgery happens in the United States every day. And it's hard to believe that it happens, but it does. So I'm sure that it happens here in Nigeria as well. Prior to surgery, a timeout needs to be performed. What that means is that everybody on the team gets on the same page to understand why the patient is having surgery. They identify the body part that will be worked on, and the doctor all agrees. That way we prevent the wrong portion of the body being operated on. Just this past week in the United States, a man went to have surgery to remove his spleen. The doctor took out his liver instead, and he died. It is very important that we count and that we do everything we can to avoid an injury during surgery. Suicide is one of those things that we deal with in the United States. Not as common here in Nigeria, but you need to make sure that you understand everything that you can about suicide. We need to make sure that we assess our patients to understand if they are having suicidal ideation or thoughts. We need to protect patients who tell us that they feel like killing themselves. We don't leave them in the room by themselves. We stay with them. There are two scenarios that I want to go over with you. Patient comes to the hospital and says, "I've lost my husband and my mother. They both have died and I am so sad. And there are days that I don't feel like living." That same patient comes to you and says, "I don't feel like living. And when I leave here, I have a gun and I'm going to shoot myself and kill myself." Which of the patients do you need to pay more attention to? It's the one with a gun. They have told you that they have a plan. They have told you how and when and why they are going to take their life. It is very, very important that you take them seriously. To avoid medication error, we use the 5 rights of medication administration. If you discover an error, you need to speak up. If you see it, you must say it. We want to avoid any injury reaching a patient because that patient could be your child or your family member laying there in the bed. It does not matter if you are the nurse and you see the doctor about to make a mistake. All of us are human, and we need to protect the patient. When we talk about our pregnant mothers, we need to do everything that we can to protect the mother and the baby. Think about vaccination and testing to make sure that we are taking care of that precious baby that will be brought into the world. When we talk about safety at the hospital, whether it be an injury or a sentinel event, we need to talk about what it means to have a culture of safety. Your culture in Nigeria is different than my culture in the United States. The clothes that you wear in Nigeria are different than the clothes that we wear in the United States. The food is different. The music can sometimes be different. One thing that is not different is our culture of safety. It should not matter where you are on this planet. When we are caring for God's children, we have to be safe. A culture of safety is defined as a set of ways of doing and thinking that is widely shared by all the employees of an organization in the context of managing significant risk. All that means is we need to think the same way when we take care of patients. All of us need to think safety first. The idea of a culture of safety came from 2 events that happened around the world in 1986. The first is this. On the left side of your screen, you see a group of astronauts. They are the crew for the Challenger astronaut adventure. When they went into space, they trained for over a year to go into space, to know what to do, to know how to care for the machine, and to know how to care for each other. 73 seconds after takeoff of that rocket, it exploded in midair, killing all astronauts. The second thing that happened is this picture. This is Chernobyl, Ukraine. Ukraine is currently in a war with Russia. But in this town, there was a nuclear reactor powering the whole town. And they decided to test one of the engines that day. When they tested it, it exploded, spewing radiation all over the town and anybody inhabited in the town. All that lived there were exposed to the radiation. Many, many people died, and many have cancer. This event was the most expensive cleanup of any safety event in the world. It cost over 1 trillion naira to clean up. At the end of the day, why do you think these disasters happened? Was it human error? Was it a system failure? Or was it both? The answer is both. Many of the people on that rocket and many of the people at that nuclear plant were ignoring little signs that something was wrong. And they did not tell anybody when that something wrong happened. everything blew up because nobody took the time to say that something was wrong. So when we talk about a culture of safety at Equa EGBE, we need to make sure that all of us are thinking safety first for the patient. If we see something, we must say something. See it, say it. Thank you for your time, and thank you for being a part of Equa EGBE. May God bless you.